And then Kaz just takes a giant ship, rams that boundary, rams the second boundary, rams whatever boundary you could ever imagine. And Inej just goes like, that's kind of hot though.
This meeting is being recorded.
Anyway, okay, welcome back to what you could say is the part 2 of the Six of Crows duology, where we all come together to rant and bant about this piece of literature. So here it is at the back. Today we'll be talking about Crooked Kingdom, which was the February book club read for the Incatchers book club. And yeah, I am Natalia. This is Alex, Becca, and Johnny, and we will be your hosts for today. But yeah, basically, let's get right into it, which makes me sound so YouTube official. But in three sentences, how do we summarize this book for those who might not have read it and still want to watch a little bit of this video?
I'll start because I've been thinking about this for a long time, and so I have 3 sentences, not just one this time. Kaz Brekker is a terrible person. Corrupt city is corrupt. And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yes, literally. We were literally talking about this morning. Yes, okay, good. I completely agree. My summary of this book is Amsterdam, but not. And superpowers, but not. And bang, bang. And bang bang, a lot of bang bang. Let's start with the discussion of favorite characters and least favorite characters, and this is more to do with how would you re-rank your previous ranking if you had one, or did somebody start shining in this book for you, or what are your feelings, and obviously least favorite characters as well. But I feel like that's kind of, all the baddies are bad, so it's more about the faith.
I think that Wylan quickly became one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite, because he felt mostly like he had a very normal but understandable character progression, and his motivations made sense. He felt like a bit of a reader stand-in at sometimes where he's reacting to what's going on, or having to follow Kaz around and going why would you do this, or reacting as normal people would be like, damn, it's cold or something, But I think he definitely bumped up my list, and I think no one got downgraded character wise, but I think Wylan became my favorite. Kaz was the same, completely crazy madman genius. Inej didn't get much more development. I suppose last book covered a lot of that. Matthias and Nina, there was some more stuff.
The way they are, because
there was just more stuff. But no downgrades, definite upgrades for Wylan, and I think Jesper as well.
All right, for me, I'm gonna jump in and say, because you said upgrades, definitely. So my last list was something like Inej, Kaz, Jesper, Wylan, Nina, Matthias. Now my favorite character has to be Jesper. Honestly, soft spot. He's a good boy, precious cinnamon roll, who's the most normal out of them all, followed by Inej, because I wish we had more background about Inej, and we'll discuss a bit more about what's happened with her. But I feel like some of the stuff that happened, especially at the beginning with her getting kidnapped, that was kind of pointless, and it gave more backstory to Kaz than it did to Inej in a way, about the perception of Kaz Brekker. So she's still very, very high, but she's second after Jesper. Then we have Kaz tied with Wylan for different reasons. I really like Wylan for the same reason as Johnny just said, but I also think that Kaz is just a type, it's just a type that you like, type of deal. And then Nina and Matthias can just sit on my last trenches of characters, because I really couldn't care less. I mean, them making out at the embassy, I was sitting there going yes, physical affection, yes, we it was just did nothing for me. But yeah,
I'd say that it was a very teenager thing to do for once.
Yeah, basically. I guess that's like the one teenager thing that actually happened in this book. But yeah, what about Alex, Becca?
Okay. Well,
Formulating.
I think last time I said Kaz was my favorite character, and that's definitely changed. I'd like to revise that.
Rescind.
I rescind that statement. Because I do like the type. I can't help but like the type. I'm one of those girls, but he's just so insufferable as a human being. Like as a character, he's great. He's got those sassy lines and he's super smart, etc. But he's just such an insufferable human being. I just couldn't justify it anymore. I think Inej was like just she's a strong character. I think Johnny's right. Like there wasn't a whole lot more added to her, but I still enjoyed her perspective a lot. I have like a fake favorite character, and then
Go on.
that's the unsung heroes of this book, and that is Roddy and Specht, the like two like people that are always there doing the most important shit, but nobody talks about it, and they barely get any lines of dialogue. You don't get any development on them, but they're like the Deus Ex Machina duo that always bails this whole team out with like, oh, they have the boat, or they went ahead and like scouted this out and made sure that like everything was cool. Those two are the unsung heroes of this duology.
So they're the S tier basically. So we have all the characters and they're like S tier.
Yeah, like every time they popped in, I was like, oh, yep, something's gonna go right for them because they're always there.
Fair enough. What about you, Al?
So I can definitely say that after having read the first book, I definitely appreciated the fact that they gave Wylan a lot more lines, or like just basically they gave him a perspective. And I have to agree with Johnny that Wylan fast became one of my favorite characters, and sort of taking your opinion as well, that Jesper, sort of the interactions between them two felt very nice, and I think it was a very good juxtaposition from all the doom and gloom that was going on. And sort of you have Nina Matthias's crazy relationship, and then Inej and Kaz's relationship. That's one thing. You have here like something that's just wholesome, that's just kind of nice. These are two like awkward guys just flirting with one another, and you're like, okay, I can get behind this. Like I appreciate the character development that they gave Jesper, the fact that they gave him like much more backstory with his dad. I mean, there are still so many issues, but it was nice the way that they developed it. Same with Wylan. So I didn't necessarily have a favorite character. Everybody like who was good stayed good. There were people who became better, but not necessarily to like seismically shift anything. I did have a least favorite character though, and
Go on. Okay.
I never thought I would say this, because this man, as always, has only one chapter in this entire book to himself. But I hated to the core of just like everything Pekka Rollins. And it's not even because he's like, I hate him because he's a good villain. I hate him because he's a caricature of a good villain. I hate him because you build him up to literally be the pinnacle of everything that is evil in this world. And then not only do you squander him, not only do you not even show the depravity of what he is supposed to be, you give that to Van Eyck literally, and then you make him like that's its own side thing. You then introduce his backstory at the end of the book, and as you said, and like as was mentioned, then you basically ended with, and I would have gotten it away, like I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for these meddling kids. Let's toast to them and everybody who has to deal with their shit now. And obviously we'll get to like the ending, but my God, did that ending just, I have no words. I have no words that can accurately convey how I feel right now. Maybe later on when I can finally start dissecting it, but right now it's just, no.
Alex is just like tilted. It's not even like a small tilt. It's just like a full on.
I have to preface this by saying that I had to finish this book like 170 pages of it between last night and today. So I got the entire ending in one go. And so like I had like, it was just up and down in one go. So I was like on this kind of emotional high of getting to where and then just the ending, just kind of like every single chapter that like those last 3 chapters are unnecessary and made me hate the book basically. But we'll get to that.
All right,
get to
okay,
that.
yeah, we will get to that. Let's reel it back in and go with. All right, we talked about favorite character, least favorite character. Now let's talk about the favorite scene and least favorite scene. And I introduced this because page 332 made this whole entire freaking book for me, in the sense of like there is very little perfection, but when I read that, I interpret it in such a way that I was like, this is everything that I ever wanted and needed. And that is Kaz saying Jordy to Jesper, because as we all know, Jesper wanted to be recognized by Kaz, and all of a sudden Kaz, when looking at, and I also now understand why Jesper's name needs to be read as Jesper, because then you can be like Jesper Jordy, like it's the slip is easy, it's subtle, etc. But it's just even if it was a subconscious acknowledgement of Kaz that Jesper, and this is how I read the scene, that Jesper was close enough as a brother to him that I was good. That was I read it, I was like, oh, I'm satisfied. This hit exactly the spot that I wanted it to, and I loved it. Least favorite scene though is literally probably like the first 1/3 of the book, because it felt like it was this very, very slow ass setup to the entire plot. So for me, the book honestly started, I think, like in part 4 or part 3 of 6, which was when Wylan went with Jesper to find out that his mom like is alive. But everything before that, like Inej being like kidnapped, I feel like a lot more could have been done with that. Like, could Kaz pull off something without the Wraith? And it seemed like, it was I just feel like there could have been more. And if you look back, the first half of the book, there was nothing there except the reason for why they needed to go borrow money from Pekka. Like, that was the setup, as well as I can't quite sure, somebody remind me if they do. It's to do with like the wife, and he was like, oh yeah, on the bridge, but you were on the bridge. It's like, oh yeah, but I didn't say anything, so that was, so it was like, it was such a long con and a kind of a convoluted thing that I don't feel like it was necessary per se. But Jordy to Jesper, that was all time. That just hit all the spots. That's for me.
Nice.
Okay, I know that you're really on the hype train of Jordy, the Jordy Jesper hype train, and I don't mean to derail it, but nowhere in this book, apart from at the very end when Jesper says, the money that I have now earned, I might have rather put it, like, maybe it's better to put it in, like, to my dad's farm, so now that, like, maybe I shouldn't hold on to it. And he just out of nowhere goes, that's the right call, Jess. Out of nowhere. He's never called him Jess before, to my knowledge.
Has he?
I don't think so.
I thought in the first book, like at the beginning, there was a Jess in there somewhere.
Okay, maybe he's called him Jess once. The entirety of their relationship so far has basically been like Kaz on top, kind of Jesper in a sort of like, part of the gang type of like boss, like sharpshooter, like support dynamic. Nowhere has it ever been that there's like this emotional connection to them. So like when I read it, I completely just didn't see. I saw Kaz like emotional in the moment, but like Jesper, Jordy, like probably that's what they're going for. But really though,
it's for like, the shipper hearts,
Is there going to be more books then? Is there a third?
Apparently there is.
Yeah, it's sometime in the future.
Not yet.
Just when I thought I was out.
They pulled me back in.
Becca, did you find it?
Yeah. And no, okay. No, what's funny is that this was like a pretty pinnacle scene, but you know what I thought you were talking about when you said like just wait till this page, and
go on. I like to see miscommunication.
It happens directly after. Like it literally, it's this scene and then they fight, right? So the fist fight between Kaz and Jesper, you know, very emotionally like charged. Felt like it was a long time coming. But my favorite part, the part that made it all worth it to me, was when Jesper's father threatens to spank him in front of all his friends.
Oh my god.
And he just like totally destroys him. These 17-year-old thinking they're 35-year-old, you know, crime boss, criminal masterminds, and the only father figure to really interact with these characters just lays it on him, and I just thought it was hilarious. Was it kind of like gimmicky? Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a comic relief scene, but God, was it worth it, because it put all of them in their place for 2 seconds.
It's like satisfaction. I love the miscommunication because it's literally the same page, but it's like one after the other.
But that was a really like whoa moment. But I also agree with Alex that it's not set up to where you think, oh, maybe Kaz thinks of Jesper like a brother until this moment of like slip of the tongue, and then you're like, oh, subconsciously he thought of him as a brother, but like you didn't put that together. Like there was no other context clues for it throughout the book. You knew that he cared about Jesper, like that was kind of obvious, but like also, I don't know, there's a weird disconnect there. Like Jordy was his older brother, he looked up to him. Jesper kind of looks up to Kaz. Like, I don't know, it was a weird dynamic.
I feel like this entire book can be described as there are so many interesting concepts that the author was trying to pull out, but then never throughout the book do you have like an inclination that it's headed in that way. It's just sort of sprinkled in the moment where it's like, oh my God, it totally makes sense, but there's no build up to it. And that kind of makes it feel slightly lackluster. Like it's the same thing as the first book had, where you can have so many of these concepts being brought forward, but if you don't really establish them or kind of, you know, use Chekhov's gun or like, here's this, and then like, this is like how we're going to get here. And then when you see it like, you know, 15 chapters later, you're like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. It's not there anymore, or it's not there, period. So you're just left there going like, yeah, that's cool. Moving on. Like there's no like emotional buildup to that. You're not like connecting it through your head. You're not listing back the pages going, oh my God, it makes sense.
Yeah, no gravitas to any of the wow moments, because it's just kind of like, for me it was a wow moment, or like putting 2 and 2 together, because I felt there was a bit bashing over the head with the fact like Jesper keeps being felt by, like Jesper keeps trying to prove himself to Kaz. So when I read that, I was like, that's why I think, again, I keep saying that Bardugo wrote fan fiction. And this is why, because I read fan fiction and I picked that up because it's such a fan fiction trope to do. Like, it's literally such a fan fiction trope to do. That's why when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, there we go. I know exactly what she's trying to do, because this is literally something that you would read in fan fiction. But anyway, I digress. Johnny, what about you?
I'm hard pressed to pick a favorite scene, because there's a lot of like dramatic set pieces in the book, different parts where you're like, everything's happening at once, but like it's still cool and it makes you go like, oh, what's in the next chapter? I can't stop now. But I will pick like I'll start lighthearted, then I'll go with my bad scene.
Okay, go ahead.
But like the the kind of moment that I was like, I like this because it's just funny and it shows that the other characters are self-aware and they don't let like Kaz rule their lives. In which they're getting on it's very near the start of the book. It's something like page 45, 50, something like that. They've just got on a boat to go towards the graveyard area, where they're hiding out, and they've got Kuwei stashed.
Stashed away.
You know, and it's basically like they're talking about like the price of getting Inej back, and it's like, and Kaz like very coldly goes like, oh, it's very like, we just need this, it's just business or something like that. And then like Nina like chimes in and says like something along the lines like Kaz goes like, we get Inej, we get our money, it's as simple as that. And then Nina goes like, simple as that? Do you know I'm the next in line for the Fjord and throne? they call me Princess Ilsa of Engelsberg, and it's like, there's no Princess of Engelsberg, says Matthias. It's a fishing town. Nino shrugged. If we're going to lie to ourselves, we might as well be grand about it, which is basically calling out Kaz, being like, yeah, it's not business. You actually care about Inej, but you just don't want to say. And I was like, it's like, it shows that they know each other instead of just a band of people put together. They're actually starting to like be like, I know what you're really thinking.
Yeah.
Underneath your shell, I'm not going to take everything you say at face value. And then like also near the start of the book, which I'm going to just say is like one of my least favorite bits, because it goes back to what we ranted about in the first review of Six of Crows, which was just this moment where like it's just after Wylan and Kaz have broken into, is it Smitty or something? Smeat's place, and they're leaving, and he's like, he just scolds a kid, like, or just goes like, if you tell anyone, I'll slit your throat, I'll slit the dog's throat, I'll slit this, and only if you shut up, because I'm a monster. And then he like wanders off, and he goes like, oh, it's like, damn, that was cold. and it was just like, he just says this line. He goes like, I was like, how could you say something like that to her? She's just a child. I have this page folded because I was like, this is so stupid. And he goes like, we were all just children once.
Oh my
There's
God.
Kaz. I'm like, you are 17. You are a literal child. You are not a legal adult in most countries. I don't even think you're allowed to buy a beer. We were all just children once. And then they all, what? But it was that or I snap her neck. You're like, what the hell? Who is this kid? What has he done? How many people has he murdered at this point? He chucked a guy off a lighthouse for blackmailing someone once. It's ridiculous.
It made me hate Kaz Brekker. Yeah, that scene with the child and when they reference him throwing the guy off the lighthouse, those made me hate Kaz Brekker, because you were supposed to be like, oh man, he's so edgy, he's an edgelord, he wants his girlfriend back so bad, like he just will do anything. Like I that's what the feeling I was getting, like his ruthlessness was directly tied to like how badly he wanted to rescue Inej, but like you caring about a girl doesn't constitute a morality.
It ruined the whole, like the first book had him pegged still as morally grey. He had his own motivations. He still kind of wanted, he wanted revenge for his brother, of course, and he wanted this and that and the other, and he was just trying to make his way up the ridiculous ladder of Ketterdam and the underbelly of it, of society. But he still felt that he had some, like, you know, he cared about his friends. He cares about Jesper and Inej and like everyone else. But they kind of like made it more, instead of morally grey, he's now morally spilled ink black. He's like, he's definitely verging into the more evil of the spectrum, because it's like, if you have a feud with someone and they were a monster, they were a proper scumbag, and they have scumbag henchmen working for them that have killed people, and it's like, so if your like main character, I wouldn't say hero because that's generic, but if your main character who you're rooting for kills some of those people to get to that guy, you're like, well, they were also assholes. But like, if your main character, in order to, you know, set up some grand, ridiculous version of revenge, because all of this was just for leverage and other things. Like, it's not like he's directly gone up to the person and tried to shoot them. You know, he's come up with a whole plan to ruin Van Eyck, or at least it's got constant one-upmanship. If he's ruining normal people's lives along the way that just got in the way, or happened to be the person to use for leverage, it kind of makes you go, oh man, I don't like this person. Like, they're not a good person. It's not good enough reasoning to just be like, well, I needed them for getting the banknotes, and they were there for like the teller slips, right? They were there for like the
And changing the will in the
business
end.
report, yeah. And it's kind of like, eh? Like that's very far out of the scope of what you would normally do in a normal person's revenge scheme. You're ruining lots more lives, so I don't think I like you very much. But I digress. It's still very interesting. It's still a really good book.
Yeah.
It's still fun.
Alex, did you talk about your favorite scene?
No. I
And I
can't.
will not.
In terms of favorite scenes, I can't really. I will say one thing that stood out to me, and I'm guessing we're already spoiling the book, so this is sort of open.
Full on spoilers, please.
Okay, so Matthias dies.
Yeah.
And,
by the way, let's get to that one.
So to anybody who was interested, yeah, he dies for reasons, because of course that's its own
No. We'll get to it.
conversation.
Okay,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is like so.
It furthers the plot greatly.
Yeah, of course. And I really his death brings both one of my favorite parts of the book and one of my least favorite parts of the book. One of my favorite parts of the book, and as you alluded to when we were talking about this, and I didn't pick up on this, and then you pointed out, and it just made me like it even more, that small chapter that he has of him sort of going off into the realm of death. I don't know what you can describe it as. That was very well done, and especially since it mirrors his first chapter in Six of Crows. Putting that together, I thought that was very well done, and it kind of like reasons of his death. I kind of got goosebumps in that moment, so that was kind of like an emotionally poignant moment for me. Whether or not it's necessary or well done in the grand scheme of things, it's one of those, like, it might be bad, but it holds a special place in my heart. Move to like 2 chapters later, and you have I'm really trying to hold it together. You have the dumbest thing that I think. Okay, so they bring the body back. Everybody's mourning the fact that Matthias is dead, and then they're like, and then Nina says, I want to bury him in Fjerda because that was his wish.
Yeah, bring him back to DL and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly. So then their entire way of getting to the boat was using the death boat. I don't even know
the death barge, I think.
The death barge to like sneak out. And so these people lie there, like I think it was Inej and somebody else go to lie down there to pretend
Nina
dead.
and Jesper's dad. There you go.
Yeah, Nina. No. So Inej and Jesper's dad, and then
Yeah.
they put Matthias's actual body there on the barge, and Nina just lies down next to him as a prop. I swear to God, I read that, and I just kind of went. I don't even think I had words. It was just like this moment of disbelief, like, this is actually on the page. They're actually using this man's corpse as a prop when 2 seconds ago there was this shock about his death, and now they're just like, you know what? If we got to do it, we got to do it. Let's lie next to his dead body and just sort of, I guess we're okay with it now because, it's what he would have wanted for us to continue. And I don't know.
Maybe it's the first sign that the writing is thinking that they're kids. They're not emotionally developed enough to feel the weight of someone's death. So they're like, he's just having a nap. So they're not adults that will mourn properly. They're all 15-year-olds.
Yeah, some of them will just pile into a body barge with their dead friend. Others will concoct an entire life around a revenge plot because he had to touch a dead body. Potato.
Does this mean Nina's gonna become like the next Moriarty to Kaz's Sherlock now because he's been lying around dead people? Who knows?
Oh my God.
The secret to becoming a criminal mastermind is to lie next to a dead body.
Yeah.
But okay, now that we've touched on Matthias's death, by the way, spoilers, everybody who's still watching this and didn't understand that this video is about that. Getting on to the rants and bants, because most interesting. So bringing up all the lovely and the not so lovely and problematic stuff that we read, we'll come back to Matthias's death, because I think as a literary tool, it was done extremely poorly. It was literally a character that Bardugo looked at and said, there is nothing else left for him, so I'm just gonna axe him off the page, because it makes no sense how he got killed, because some random guy who he saw on the stage managed to follow them on their little barge going through tunnels, being really super secretive, because he got shot outside the hospital, right? Like, this was after they took great pains to like make sure that they were not being followed, complete secrecy. Second of all, he gets shot. Like, all right, I guess those guns, but fair enough. Like the Druskella, first of all, I thought they were like non-gun people. They were like, you know, spears and shit. I guess that was not part of the plan. But third of all, the fact that he then somehow has the energy to walk all the way to where Nina is. And I know that a lot of people are kind of like, oh my God, it's so romantic. You know, he kept alive. That is not how
Go to the hospital.
works.
There's a hospital right there.
Yeah,
Just go get yourself patched up.
Yeah, it's like, second of all, it's like, that's not how biology works. It's not going to care that if you haven't seen your like one true love or whatever, and that you're able to like keep the blood. How? What happened?
He kept the hole closed with his massive erection that he has for his underage love. Like, that is the only way I can imagine that he managed to walk this entire way.
Welcome to R-rated YouTube.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Oh my God!
But
Yeah,
they, like earlier in the book, like especially in Six of Crows, they were discussing all the Grisha. Like, surely at these hospitals, the healing type of Grisha might be around. Like, they could have.
There was a plague, obviously, you know, and if there's a plague,
yeah.
then there's like nothing that hospitals can do, obviously, even if a person who's like literally bleeding out, like they couldn't even like toss him a bandage or something. I mean,
out the window, just his bandage.
I know, but
Patch
like,
it up.
oh, it's so, I don't know. Like, I had massive issues with his death, in the sense of like, it literally seemed like, because, you know, the argument is like, oh yeah, okay, well, his story is over, right? He kind of went against Druskella. He can't really go back to Fjerda. Would he really fit in with Nina in Ravka? Like, and the thing is, I honestly understand it from the point of view like, it's over, it's done. But from like a realistic point of view, it's actually a lot harder. It's a lot harder to live with the choice he made. And I think that would have been worse, kind of, in a way, or like more difficult than just dying. Because now, okay, well, they're back to square zero, because honestly, it hasn't changed anything, because the Druskella know that now he's dead. Like, him, what change has he brought over to Fjerda, right? If he and Nina were now trying to somehow change Fjerda and like mend the relations, then, you know, maybe Nikolai or whatever, the king of Ravka, would be able to like, okay, I have a Druskella here who, like, you know, trying to educate or do something. But Nina, nobody's gonna believe Nina because she's not Fjerdian. Like, I don't understand how now it's like, oh, now here's my will, help them, Nina. How? She's just a Ravkan. Like, how is she going to do that? You being dead is not going to progress this. So her killing this character off actually feels self-indulgent from an author's perspective. It's like, ooh, this is going to be so good. The readers are going to be so shocked, where it's kind of like, but actually though, it makes little sense about how it happened. So it's obviously you did this in order to have this impact.
It would have been
my take.
It would have been interesting if they'd somehow done something along the lines of the Hunger Games book 3, where they're using PETA as a propaganda piece against the districts, of saying like everything is fine. So kind of, you could, like, obviously you can develop it however you want, but you can have like maybe Ravka using Matthias as now a propaganda piece of like, look, this is the Druskella has joined our side. it shows that, we're trying to educate him, and then Fierda could go like, no, he's actually a traitor, the witch. Like, there could be so much more complexity, like you said, added to the story, but then just by cutting him off completely, it's sort of going like, I don't want to have to deal with all the issues of creating a new character or like progressing the character forward. It's just like, this has come to the natural conclusion of like a cycle of a story, and instead of like developing it further, it's just going like on the chopping block, it's done. It's like there's no point.
You mean on the gun's end, because there was a gun in there.
Sure, let's go.
Bang, bang,
Yes.
shoot, bullet, bullet, gun, gun.
Chick, bang, bang, Matthias go
Bang, bang, bang.
boom and die.
Yeah. So basically, that's my take on Matthias's death. If you guys have anything else to add, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to go on to my second kind of biggest thing in the book, and that was, I think, the introduction of irrelevant characters. I think this book did this so much. Like, first of all, the shoe chase. All of a sudden, these guys can fly and shit. Like, we have metallic wings and whatnot. Okay, these characters are trying to kill. We have no idea who they are. The tide wardens, or whatever they're called. Like, we don't actually see them, but like we have no history.
Until the very end, and all.
No,
of a
and it's
sudden
not even them. That's the thing. It's not even
No,
them.
no. Then they came to threaten Kaz. Remember?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
literally, that's why these last 3 chapters make no sense. They just completely destroy the entire story, because out of nowhere you have like, so they're the Council of Tides or whatever, they're like mimicking them as a way of fooling Van Eck, and then the Council of Tides doesn't come out then, but then they come out randomly to just threaten the 17-year-old on the street of like, how easy it is to drown.
The boy.
Okay. Literally, it just went like, it's just like, how easy it is to drown, like the rest of them behind going, oh shit, like, and Kaz is just standing there and going like, oh yeah, like, okay,
boy, I already been there, done that with my brother. He didn't survive though.
It's just,
I will bring a fake plague on you so hard.
Yeah,
it was just like this, I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Like,
no. So there's them. It's a good thing that you elaborate. So there's them. Then we also have, Assassin in White.
Fucking irrelevant.
Becca, go ahead.
She was such a dumb character. She was so dumb. I know she's like, they even say right out she's supposed to be like Inej's foil, her shadow or whatever. But it was a caricature. It was honestly so ridiculous. I couldn't take her seriously. I know she was supposed to be like a zealot or whatever, like her personality, but I was just like, she is literally useless. She's just there to like create I don't know, like as like a shock factor, like, oh no, there's someone else on the high wire, like someone to best Inej maybe, but like you knew that wasn't gonna go anywhere. You knew Inej was gonna like, kick her ass. Like there was no point to her.
How does she die? Because I didn't really understand that.
Inej yeets her off the roof somehow.
Oh, so as I read it, I thought she just fell off. Like she was so in her rage to kill Inej that she literally just slips off the roof.
Or maybe that, I know that she falls off, but like that's the entire point, is that the character's so irrelevant. The way that, so regardless of any way that it's done, she's supposed to have like a lot more training. And I'm sorry, but like as talented as Inej is, also by the way, I thought Inej was a Grisha actually in the first book. Like my understanding was that Inej was a Grisha like at the very, very beginning, because she was like so quiet and a wraith. I thought that she was like had powers, but like if she's just a normal human being and she studied the art of fighting on the streets, and there's this assassin who studied with like the best masters, I'm gonna be real with you, there is no way that she would have lost. Like it's just impossible. Like there's literally no way, because it doesn't happen. Like it honestly felt like, oh yeah, here's this amateur chess player and this professional chess player, and somehow the professional chess player loses. It's like, it just doesn't happen. Like, the best thing is like, oh, she made a mistake. Like, oh, and the mistake, the reason that they gave us like, oh yeah, but they never made her fight with injuries. that was why she started like not fighting well, because while they gave her the best techniques, she never fought with injury before. Are you joking? Like,
Rob,
Also,
no, that's
yeah.
not something. Even
Also,
MMA
in
fighters fight with injuries. It's stupid.
yeah, yeah. Also, Inej had the home field advantage because no matter how much training the assassin had, she never knew the streets of Ketterdam like Inej did. Bam, 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 bam.
Maybe the Assassin's Guild was one of those, as bringing back MMA, like one of those fake martial arts sort of places where it's like pay £10 a month, we'll give you a green belt, we'll say that you're an expert at I can't even remember what it's. Maybe it's Aikido. There's like this terrible art which is just flipping people. It looks ridiculous. It's complete rubbish. But it's kind of like that where it's like she went to an assassin's guild, but I bet she's never killed anyone. They taught her how to climb ladders and stuff, and went, there you go. Send you on her way. Here's how to use a knife, but they only ever just stabbed like a wall. They never actually practiced with anyone.
Alex, you want to jump in there because I feel like you got
No, I'm good. I'm good. It's basic. It's I don't know that entire
Discount assassin.
the Walmart assassin.
Yeah, 50% off, and will only half kill you.
Yeah, and also the fact that they
Basically.
made like Bardugo made her so obviously like again the shadow or like the polar opposite. She's all in white. She even has white skin. Like, come on, how contrast like do you want to push this character as a flip side to Inej? But yeah, that's kind of like my gripe.
And then of
is
course
that
you have to say like literally in the book, oh, she's my shadow, as if nobody understood the contextual like significance of going like. It's just like no. This is the guys. Do you see? This is the shadow. The shadow.
Point 2.5. Sometimes Bardugo did too much in this book is telling and not showing. Case in point, they're at the silos or something, and all of a sudden we get like a paragraph explanation of what no funerals or no mourners, no funerals means, or no funerals, no mourners, which everybody says you kind of understand, right? Like, because there's no funerals, then there will be no mourners type of thing. So stay safe. And that's essentially what the phrase means. But then all of a sudden we get an exposition for this phrase being like, because we live in this dangerous world, we must, and it's like you're sitting there going, thank you. I guess I did. Wow. We had a book and a half of people using this phrase, and you're now like just making sure we know that what this is. So 2.5. Sometimes she all of a sudden it became a lot more about showing and not telling. And I guess that leads to my final point, which is point 3. And that is the fact this book read so much more like a movie. It was infuriating, especially near the end, where even the actual text, it was being written like as a script. And while you guys discuss, I'm going to find it in the book just to give like an example. So discuss if and do you agree or not agree?
Oh no, I my entire enjoyment of reading the book was sort of dashed by the fact that I could just hear the soundtrack and see it visually play out in my head. The reason, like now focusing on it from the critique of last book, that it was sort of like a movie, I had that in my head the entire time, and it never went away because it was really written like a movie. And so at that point I just kind of like had like basically playing in my head, and it was just, I don't know, it took away from the fact because it suffers from what I describe as big Hollywood blockbuster syndrome, where there was never a moment where you just sat with the characters in one location and they just talked and discussed. Like you'd have that for maximum one chapter, but it
Yeah.
always felt as if there was something else going on and you had to constantly be in motion or constantly explaining things. Otherwise, it felt like you're wasting time, which obviously isn't the case. Like good literature, you can spend like chapters on a scene, obviously, like don't overstretch it, but you can spend time developing a scene and developing like relationships through dialogue, and you can make intrigue there. Whereas here it was just like witty bants, explosions, witty bants, explosions, witty bants, explosions, bants. So it kind of went, I don't know, it
certainly felt like a body cop thriller, like set with a gangster high stakes, like rated 18 horrible, dark crime thriller. It was like this mad movie in which it had interspersed moments of like you could hear the laugh track and like a happy theme tune, and then suddenly it cuts to like the next couple scenes. People are dying. It's all dark and grim again. Everything's high stakes poker game. Like it just felt like really weird tonally at times, and it just kept going. There was never, as you said, breathing room. There wasn't like a chapter of them just sitting around planning and chatting and being like, man, this has been a weird couple weeks or something. They don't have that moment. They just go, okay, next, next.
Yeah.
It was mad.
So I found it. I found Ace, like, again, there's so many of them, but I found like an example. So we go near the end. So this is Kaz talking about the money and what they're going to do with the money that they now have. So Kaz goes, he paused. Matthias's share will go to Nina. I know money doesn't matter. It matters, said Nina. I will find a way to make it matter. What will you do with your shares? Find a ship, said Inej. Put together a crew. Help run an empire, said Jesper. Try not to run it into the ground, said Wylan. And you, Kaz? Nina asked. Build something new, he said with a shrug. Watch it burn. It's like
That's a scene from a television show.
literally, like you can hear the end credits kind of thing. It's like,
Hmm.
geez, Louise, come on, man.
No. I will tell you, and I talked about you what really is the end credits. So when Pekka Rollins, after having his chest sliced open by the Wraith, so the Wraith visits him and slices open his chest and basically says, if you ever comes to like mess with us again, I will do the killing on you, and basically just yeets off. And he's there, obviously just like in a frenzy after thinking, oh my god, is my son okay? He goes, runs over to his son in a panic. His son's fine, but now sleeping with a crow. That's kind of cool. Okay, moving on. He then takes a whiskey and then just goes like, I made these kids and now they're going to like be dealt, like they're the new hard people in this universe, and god help anybody who has to deal with them now. And I could literally just imagine him in the movie or in the series looking out into the darkness with the whiskey, and then like when he's talking about like Kaz and the Wraith and everybody, they just like have like shots of them in like action or doing something, and I was like, this is a movie. This is a movie. This is not even a book. This is a parody of what a serious book is trying to accomplish. You've just given up on the fact that you're just trying to write a book. You're writing a script. You're literally auctioning off a script. This is not a book anymore. I can see that you're just going like, Netflix, please, here you go. It's ready made for you.
Hit
Like
me up.
that's what it feels like.
I seriously thought that they were going to do like the sort of generic character moment like of well so Kaz's one of Kaz's motivations is revenge for his brother, and to like work his way up the ladder until finally he can be the top dog and get all the people he hates out of the city or dead, one way or the other. But like, I thought he'd have this moment where he goes meets Pekka and like realizes that he's become the thing that he hated Pekka for, and then that never happens, and so he's literally become the same scum that Pekka was, and he's gonna rule the city, and he's probably definitely already ruined some other kid's life. He's probably created another Kaz Brekker that will come along in 10 years and be the same guy. It's like this cycle. But you thought, the thing about books is the generic break the wheel moment. That never happened, but they left that unanswered. So it's kind of like, it feels like there was a fire, but they didn't even break open the box that says, in case of fire, break box. They just wove past it, went like, okay, we'll just set another fire. It kind of felt a bit like that. Like they left that unanswered. He's now probably as big as an asshole as Pekka Rollins. Who knows? I'm sure he's probably ruined many lives himself at this point, and he will continue to. Is he going to learn from that, or does he just think the world is pants, and that's the way the world's supposed to be? Like, be the change you want to be in the world. Like, do you want this to happen to someone else? Clearly, he doesn't mind.
Yes.
That's how it
Yes.
feels, anyway.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. Kaz, what bothered me the most about this book, if you'll allow me to digress or jump further, jump off the deep end, is Kaz's morality. I know we've touched on it already. And it's that like all these characters have arcs, and the arcs are pretty good. Like you feel like most of the characters learn something or develop in some way by the end. Kaz learns nothing and is this and
Yeah.
just wins. And like see,
sorry, no, he does. He learns to touch his girlfriend.
Yes, okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that because that bothered me too, and I wanted to feel satisfied about it, and I wasn't. So have oh my gosh, I think I just completely derailed my own train of thought. I'm no moral purist. I like anti-heroes. I like characters with flaws. You know, I've already admitted that like I like the archetype of Kaz. I like the bad boy that, you know, will get his hands dirty, haha, dirty hands. But there has to be like some kind of you know, boundary line, and it doesn't feel like Kaz has a boundary line. And even if he didn't, like I kept comparing him to, I don't know if you've seen the Amazon Prime series The Boys, but the main character, well, yeah, one of the main characters, Carl Urban, plays him. His name's Billy Butcher, and he has like the same kind of complex where like he's after revenge, and the superheroes are the bad guys. Like they look good on TV, but they're actually like morally depraved. But the main characters are also morally depraved, and like the whole show, the show is not glorifying it. It's kind of showing like, here's what happens when you have corruption up top and corruption down below, and this is what happens when a character becomes so invested in revenge that they can't see the boundary lines anymore. Like at least season 1 does that. Season 2 is okay, but season 1 set that up pretty clearly. You're like, you do root for these characters, but you also see like, okay, they're going too far, like they're becoming the thing that they hate. This book kind of feels like you're just supposed to root for Kaz on his like dastardly cleverness alone. Like that is his redeeming qualities, that he's so freaking clever and so ahead of the game that like that makes up for his lack of morality. And it would be different if it was pointed out like, oh, you know, Kaz is super smart and stuff, but you know, that's not necessarily a good thing. But the whole book just sets it up to where it's like Kaz is the best because he wins. Like he wins in the end. He's just the baddest boy on the street. And him caring about a girl, that is his morality. That's it. That's it. I mean, he kind of cares about his friends, I guess he does, but like even that doesn't constitute like, it's not enough for me. Like because he doesn't learn anything except that he can touch his girlfriend, but that didn't feel earned because you have the whole scene where we're explaining like why he, like him being younger and trying to like test, you know, trying to fix it himself, and he can't, you know, he just can't get over this weekness, and then all of a sudden he's over the weakness. Like where did that happen? When? Love, the power of love. Like if it had even been like, I feel like we just needed like a scene, a paragraph, maybe, you know, as unnecessary as it was, maybe it was during Matthias's funeral where he's like, oh man, death sucks, but like look at how it can also bring people together, and he's like, maybe I can touch someone after all because now I have a different conception of death. Like I feel like we need just something to show that, oh, he if at all, you know. And I did want there to be some kind of like emotional connection between him and Inej. Like I was there for it, but like it just didn't feel earned because I didn't feel like there was any transition between him not being able to touch anything to, oh, I'm over it now because girl.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of why I'm on the road of writing this crack ship, even if it's not, I don't know if it'll be romantic, but like fan fiction about Inej and Jesper. I feel like out of all of them, they actually have the biggest And I know Johnny kind of disagrees because you're like, oh, but there was no chemistry. I respectfully disagree in the sense of like, I liked their scenes when they were on the boat. I like the scenes when they were in the hotel, like when they interact with each other, because I feel like they were the most kind of like, stuff sucks and we understand the flaws of the situation, because Nina and Matthias were just like into each other fully. Like no world exists outside of you guys. Kaz is on his way to, I don't know, below 6 feet under immorality wise, as Becky just pointed it out. And Wylan, the thing that I have about Wylan and Jesper, by the way, representation still awful in this book, because Kue all of a sudden also conveniently gay, or like pan or whatever, we don't even know, but he like, you know, definitely is into kissing Jesper because it'll provide some drama. Anyway, the point is, I think at the end, Wylan and Jesper, they're so different. It seems a bit kind of like, are you really going to tell me that this guy who gambles is gonna be fine with like just trading stocks? And that's it. It seems very like a very childish understanding of what a relationship is going to be like, or how it's going to develop. And if there is a book through, I would like to see, honestly, none of the pairings existing, because I think that as 17-year-olds, what they want to achieve, it'll be very, very difficult to really, I mean, like, Inej is going to be off around the world doing her thing for like the majority of the time, and you're telling me that Kaz is going to be just like doing his own thing. So fair enough, long distance works, but you know, no internet in that world, so okay, fair enough. And then Wylan and Jesper, it's kind of, I don't know, like, to me, it's all of the pairings that ended up happening, they were just so tentative and not really based on anything. Yeah, they don't feel earned. Like, the biggest one is Jesper and Wylan, but even then, like I said, from like a point of view type of thing, it honestly felt to me like Jesper is just like, well, can't get Kaz, that means Wylan, somebody's paying attention to me, woo. Even though Wylan's a sweetheart, again, like innocent cinnamon bun type of guy, and it just still felt like this is my like rebound relationship because I can't get Kaz Brekker type of thing, to me personally. And again, like I said, I might be reading too much into it because I read fan fiction, but like, I just see the tropes here and they really annoy me. So but yeah, that's but yeah, no.
One of the things I wanted to point out, to bring it back sort of just to the segment of Kaz Brekker as a shitty person. So like
Our biggest segment.
It's because like the relationships to me, like as you said, they were very tentative. It was a bit contrived. At the end of the day, it's like, oh, you know, love wins, even if we're in the shit. If we're the shittiest of all the shitty people, but we can be shitty together because we respect each other's shittiness and we learn to love each other's shittiness, and love wins, you guys. So that just kind of, I like, you know, I don't like, you know, it's the usual romance trope. It's just everybody found a pairing, so you know, good for everyone. One of them dies, so I guess that's cool, even though it didn't really do anything. But Kaz Brekker being a shitty person, it like Becca mentioned, this is like, oh yeah, he's the anti-hero, or like, you know, hero, not really, anti-hero more so. And like at this point, he's just straight up a villain, technically, if you look at it, because at the end when he's trying to like, I think somebody asked like what happened. I think maybe it was when Jesper asked like what happened to Jordy, and then he just goes like, "Oh, do you want to know what happened to like to the guy who like tempted us to the place where where Pekka was? Do you want me to tell you what I did to his fake wife and his fake daughter and like all these other people?" And you're just like, so you straight up murked all of them. And he literally said like, yeah, I tortured this kid like after I found him like 2 weeks later. I tortured him for 2 days and I left him to die. And you're like, excuse me? And so this entire time you're just going like, oh yeah, you know, Kaz was building himself up. It's like, no, he straight up is just borderline psychotic at this point. But you know, he's dirty hands and he's quirky because, you know, Jordy, and he's got the gloves and I can't touch people. And it's just like, you're making an actual horrible human being, like by all accounts. I don't understand how Inej is still at any way attracted to him.
Right?
Because
right? Like
so many times
right?
she's just like, oh my god, no, this is it. This is my moral high, like this is
the
where.
boundary. Like these are my
And then Kaz just takes a giant ship, rams that boundary, rams the second boundary, rams whatever boundary you could ever imagine. And Inej just goes like, that's kind of hot though. He kind of broody though. I like it. Like, it's just so nonsensical, and it makes you just question like the consistent. Like, there is no consistency. These characters are literally as flippant as humanly possible, and it's just, I don't know. Especially Kaz. Kaz has a special place in my heart as one of the most poorly written yet somehow enjoyable to read characters, because he's a walking train wreck. But then he's just so good at homicidal banter that it's kind of stupid. Like him threatening the child, like, I'll kill your dog and your mom, but I'll kill you last so you know that it was your fault. Like, goddamn, dude. Like, if that's not entertaining to read, I don't know what is. That being said, you probably should have been admitted to like a psych ward a long time ago. Speaking of which, this is what I wanted to say. Kaz Brekker is also Superman, because this 17-year-old somehow manages to take on the entirety of the gang that he was the leader of, who are all grown-ass men. I'm like, this is not even like like they're all injured. She could never fought through the injuries. No, they're perfectly healthy. Kaz has literally most of his life, so he doesn't mobile. And yet everybody's running at him one at a time because he's got bravado, because that kid's got spunk. So, nobody wants to rush him. They're all going one at a time. And he beats all of them.
It's full Sherlock. It's the Chung stuff. It's like, discombobulate. I will
Literally.
snap arm. Disattach retina. Next. Trip. Abuse.
It's
known broken
so
rib
bad.
from 3 years
It's
ago.
honestly so bad. It's just, this
This is silly.
Oh God, yeah, I don't know. I think they basically took all of his settings of like edginess, superhuman strength, superhuman being asshole.
Yep.
And just turned it up to 11. And they were just like, you know what? He's all of those things. He is literally the antithesis of a good person. He's just literally everything that a good person is not. He's just them, but he's also Superman. So I don't know. It's
He's a Superman who can find his girlfriend's parents in the middle of nowhere.
Oh God, don't even start. Don't those 3 chapters ruined it.
And that makes him a good person because he cares about Inej's family.
Hey, come meet my parents with me. Okay. God, everything's fine now. Everything's fine now.
I thought that like the problem with with Kaz and the others' age is because they can't even have like I thought like maybe Inej could like after all of this craziness just be like, look, I'm gonna go on this boat, I'm gonna go explore, come with me, and we'll like drag him out and go like, look, Ketterdam isn't the world. This is the world. You don't have to live like this. You are clearly smart, capable. You can do anything. Don't stay here. It's horrible. It's corrupt. Look at what it's done. It ruined your life. It's killed your friends. It's done this. Like, and you're scrapping over the scraps to be the top dog when you could go see the world. There's so much more of it out there. I thought they would have that moment and then be like, okay.
He's smart, but he's
no,
not that smart.
He's stuck around, and Inej is stucking around as well. Don't do it. Go be a person. Go leave this.
He buys her a boat, and like whenever
you
want to go, you can go on the boat. But because I found your parents and I bought you a boat, and I'm basically like learning how to be a human being again, I guess you gotta have to stay. And she's kind of like, I guess I do.
Because he's 17. So all he's ever known will have been this bloody city. And then as soon as he was out of it, in the last book, things started to be less simple for him because he had to deal with normal people's situations. And yet he was still Superman in trying to break out of the prison. And but like he clearly probably doesn't know what goes like. Go push him to develop as a human and see kindness and morality in other people and like a village that he can go to and they just be like they're just happy that they're there. Trade, sit at a tea shop, go be a normal person. Don't stay in this damp, horrible, stinking shit pile of a city that is definitely not Amsterdam, because Amsterdam's actually nice. It's like anti-Amsterdam. It's like a mirror world
Why
where
didn't he
everything
want
sucks.
his leg to be healed? Did anybody understand that part?
The touching, like she would have to touch him for longer, or maybe he was just like, "This is my mark." Like,
yeah, I
this
think
is
it was the like this is my like a reminder, but I find that like really stupid.
It's like here's a way of getting all your revenge, but making your life not as miserable. It's the Dr. House version of like I have to be miserable, otherwise I can't be a genius and I can't do my craft. Then you're just not that good if you have to have like this thing making you focus the entire time. He's actually just Dr. House. He's
He is.
Yeah, he is.
he's just House. He's
Wobbling
miserable. He's got a limp, and he uses his cane to beat people every once in a while. And he acts like he's smarter than everybody, even though, as we've clearly seen, he's kind of an idiot. Like it's.
I'm gonna say that we've spoken a lot about, but I thought that to round off our session before like we all have to move on with our lives from, you know, living in the Grishaverse for a little bit, we're all gonna do like a little reaction. I don't know if anybody has seen it, I haven't, to the trailer of the show. So I'm gonna share screen and we're gonna watch it all together, and yeah, have a first sneaky peek at what's happening. So can everybody see?
These 17-year-olds, let's go.
Can everybody see?
My pre-trailer reaction is I hate it.
All right, okay, so let's go. Oh no. All right, okay. Guys, quickly all open the trailer because we're gonna watch it together, but I'll just show it on my screen. Everybody have it open?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, okay, so I'm gonna count everybody in. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Destroy it. We need a miracle.
All right, I guess that's
All I know is that Mal doesn't deserve rights, apparently. That's what I've heard about from the fandom.
okay. All I know is that we saw Jesper, Inej, and Kaz for a total of 0.3 seconds. Jesper flicking that coin was the highlight of all of that. Honestly, it doesn't feel like the universe that we know. I'm gonna be honest. Like looking at that, if you tell me this is Cricket Kingdom, like connected to Six of Crows, I'll be like, no. Anyway,
Yeah, I have no idea how they're gonna connect this. Also, I just have a like, I'm not looking forward to the campiness that they give adaptations of like fantasy series. Like it feels like no series can ever be adapted where it's as if it's a serious book. It's always just like like everything is just put like I don't know, they just don't treat it like an actual serious piece of literature, which I mean, you know, depending on if you like the book or not, you can argue whether or not it's serious. But like it always just goes like they just make it just feel, I don't know. I'm not going into this with the highest of hopes.
okay,
I'll just say that.
we're gonna leave it for the idea that I presented. That we're gonna Alex and I are gonna do a special little club discussion with just the two of us of Shadow and Bone. That all of us are gonna come in for a special to discuss the series. But with that is the end of our discussion of the Cricket Kingdom. Our next book, which is going to be more of a novella, and it was picked by Becca. Becca, what is it? It is
The Western Game by Ellen Raskin.
There we go. So that is what we're going to be reading for the month of March. Come and join us if you want to. The link to the Discord is in the description. The link to Becca's channel is also in the description. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more of our bants for our next discussions, then please subscribe, like, do whatever YouTube algorithm likes, and we will catch you all in the next one. Thank you very much. Enjoy the Grishaverse and what it has to hold for us next month. Yay. All right. See you guys later. Bye-bye.